Ready for clarity and a path to freedom? Learn about my validation sessions at coachingwithdrheidi.com. Welcome to It's Not Normal, It's Toxic, where your understanding will become your freedom. You feel like you're fighting a constant battle with someone in your life and you're starting to worry that it might be you. You've honestly tried to make it better, but it's not working. Well, I've been there and I know how you feel. I'm your host, Dr. Heidi. Thanks to my personal experience, I can say I understand the toxic person better than they understand themselves. And I can teach you how to do the same thing. It was through this understanding that I started to feel my freedom. I'm here to be the person for you that I desperately needed during the years I spent in my own toxic relationship. Episodes are released every other week, and please share this podcast. It may change somebody's life. Welcome back. It's Not Normal, It's Toxic. I'm your host, Dr. Heidi, and I want to start by thanking you for being here. Now, if I was you, and at one time I was, the number one reason that I would have kept coming back to this particular show would have been very obvious and quite simple. And most likely, like many of you, I would be binging it. I would have been thinking, finally, somebody who gets it, someone who understands it. I would have probably felt like the host was observing my life, because that's what I've heard many, many times over from clients. I would have needed to hear that what I was experiencing was, in fact, not normal and even perhaps toxic or unhealthy for me. I would have been here for validation because it's difficult to find people that understand. When I was in the complete fog of my toxic situation, it felt like I was literally the only person that had a relationship like that. Others would tell me, well, every relationship has its problems. It's just difficult to see what's going on behind closed doors. And everyone's probably most likely having the same difficulties as you. Now, maybe when I was explaining the situation, I was sugarcoating it because we know that we do that. We don't say it like it really is. But if what they were saying was true, and that was the case, what in the world are we all doing in relationships then? Why would everyone in a relationship subject themselves to chaos? Am I supposed to just go with that everybody in a relationship questions their memory? And everybody in a relationship loses their independence and everybody becomes emotionally numb and in the end has no idea who they are? Everyone must be having the same miscommunication with their partners and friends and family? Everyone is this misunderstood and nobody has anybody that they can talk to or to help them out or give them advice? It seems hard to believe that everyone is doing this. But since I couldn't find any solid evidence or find any place to get validation, I went with, well, I guess it was my choice to be in this relationship. And I convinced myself that I was overthinking or I was overjudging or I was the crazy one, just expecting way too much from my relationship. And there I stayed. You are here now because you too want to know if what you are experiencing is normal. And I'm here and I am not going to tell you the same thing that everybody told me. I am here to tell you that this chaos, this something feels wrong, but I can't put my finger on it. The up and down, the hot and cold, the black and white, the flip-flops, the quickly changed plans, the inconsistency, the unpredictability, this upside down feeling is not what is going on behind closed doors in every relationship. I know that because there has been almost, and I say almost because no relationship is perfect, there has been almost no resemblance in the relationship that I am in now to the one that I used to be in. Is there an occasional disagreement? Sure. Has there been some fights? Yep. But there has almost always, again, almost, there's almost always been a clear, calm conversation where perspectives are shared, behaviors are admitted, apologies are given, and we move back into life calmly and happily. from whatever the disagreement was. There has not been those high highs and low lows. Good days and bad days, yes, but not huge emotional upsetting swings of uncontrollable, unpredictable behavior. Now, when the occasional ugliness shows up, it's not repetitive and it does actually have valid feelings, reasons, or circumstances behind it that would cause the ugliness to show up. There are apologies, there's acceptance, there's accountability. There's been times that we've had to agree to disagree, but we're okay with that. We know that we're not going to have the same perspective on all things. But the working through things as a committed team and as life partners has been the goal since the beginning. And our goal in the relationship is exactly the same. We don't like disagreements, but we know that they're going to arise at some point, especially after 18 years. But it's nothing comparable to what I had before that other people were telling me everyone was experiencing. So if you are one who feels like I'm watching your life by the things that I say on this podcast, well, I'm here to officially tell you that the things that I talk about on this podcast, if they're repetitive and if they're cyclic, is not normal. And to certain personality types, it's going to be toxic and it's going to be unhealthy. Let's talk about normal, air quotes, for a minute. How many times have you said, why can't they just act normal? Probably every day, right? The reason we think they're not acting normal is because they're not acting like us. You and I only see the world through our personality, the emotionally wired, more empathetic eyes. So to us, how we act is normal. The toxic personality does not see things the same way we do. And they are actually acting completely normal for the personality that they've been given. I'm here to validate for you that although it is indeed not normal, it's toxic for you, their behavior is normal for them, and there are reasons for it. Rather than hoping that they're someday going to act the way that you see as normal, which is act like you have to learn to accept them and expect them to be themselves. You can't expect somebody to change the personality they've been given or the personality that they've developed. When you can understand that their normal is not your normal, you'll then be able to decide if it's healthy for you or not, or if it's right for you or not. The good news is, however, behaviors that are toxic and not normal to us are cyclic and repetitive. So in turn, they can become predictable, which is to your advantage. Now, you can't look at this in a way that we normally do when we are in a toxic environment. On Tuesday, your job is to get through Tuesday. So you focus on everything that happens on Tuesday. And when you go to bed at night, everything that happens, you hope goes under the rug because when you wake up in the morning, your job is now to get through Wednesday. Everything that happened on Tuesday, good or bad, is now forgotten because we have this ginormous mountain of Wednesday that we have to get through safely, keeping the peace, keeping them happy, and keeping all well in their world. So we tend to look at things at one incident at a time, which is what confuses us. We can't look at things that way. We have to start looking at the bigger picture so you can see that the cycle repeats. If you can start doing that, you're very soon going to be able to see that it is quite predictable. No one remembers everything after hearing it just one time. And I have touched on a lot of these behaviors before in different episodes of this podcast, but I know that I needed to hear things over and over and over before I could really, one, see it, and two, understand it. So for the next few months, I'm going to go through some of these behaviors and lay out this predictable playbook. Let's see if we can clear some of the confusion that you live with. Validation in itself can be a huge relief, and it can lead you to the desire to learn more from that new perspective, which is that of predictability. You know very well what they do. All you have to do is scroll through any social media feed right now, and it will tell you the toxic person does this, the toxic person does that. This is how they act. This is what they do. We all know that. But it's in understanding the reasons they do this or that is what's going to get you to the next place. What they do and say is easy. You've been watching it day after day for years. But having your attention on them all the time in order to predict the next chaotic thing, it's kept you from getting any further than what they do. Understanding why they do it is the foundation of my teaching, and it's the mission of my work. As for me, it was a gigantic step forward in actually seeing freedom in my future. Like many of my already published episodes, we'll be talking about their behaviors. You will feel like I'm watching your life. You're going to be amazed at the things I know about you and your relationship without knowing a single thing about you or your relationship. Now, this is my suggestion because this is how I learn. I suggest over these few episodes, you take notes or at least write the behaviors down. What happens if you don't do this? It's just like when you go to a retreat and you're all fired up because you're out of the environment and you take the notes and you make the lists and you set the goals and you head back. And guess what hits you in the face as soon as you get there? Life. You're going to feel like you understand this while you're listening to me. But as soon as this podcast ends, you're going to get flung back into the chaos that you are so trying to figure out. And as soon as that happens and life hits you in the face, you're going to revert to behaving, accommodating, giving your attention to them. And basically, you're going to fall right back in line with what they need and what you need to do to keep the peace and keep them happy. So, if you can write a few notes from each episode, you may be better to go back and review it in order to observe their behavior. You may see some things that we're talking about, or while I talk about them, you might think, oh my gosh, that's exactly what they do. Write that down because when you can go back to it and see it again, it becomes less scary. Observation is going to be your validation. Observe and check each behavior for the 2 weeks between the episodes, and then do the same thing with the next episode. Now, here's a little preview or a trailer, if you will, of some of the behaviors that we're going to talk about and the things that I'm going to ask you to observe. Because if you can get these down and learn exactly what they're doing, but more importantly, why they're doing it, you're going to be in a different headspace and you're going to be in a space where you understand the situation so much better that now you can be prepared to choose whether you want to stay there or if you need to make some changes. So if as I go through this little trailer, if any of these sound like your Tuesday afternoon or your Saturday morning or your holiday season, know that you are in the right place. You are not alone because there's a lot of people listening, and I've been there. And I'm ready to help when you're ready for help. In the upcoming weeks, we're going to examine the built-in dry erase board. You know you had that conversation yesterday, but today they genuinely do not remember it. Or they remember it a totally different version of it where you were the problem. It's like their memory has a self-erasing default feature designed just to protect them. Sound familiar? What about the pity party planner? No matter what happens, a forgotten bill, a flat tire, a major argument, it always ends up in a party where they are never, ever at fault. The story always ends with them being the most wronged and the most hurt and the least important person in the room. They aren't having bad luck or being treated badly or taking the blame. They are actively organizing a crisis to ensure they get maximum sympathy, maximum attention from the maximum amount of people possible. These kind of parties can get very exhausting, especially if you have to attend one every other day. Sound familiar? What about the helpless hustle? We know that they are perfectly capable of handling their job, your job, their boss's job, the preacher's job. They know all things about all things and they can do whatever better than anybody else. But the moment you ask them to do something for you or handle a basic household task, the hustle begins. And suddenly they lose all functional knowledge and capabilities. Why? Because if they can get you to believe that they can't do it, guess who now has to do it for the rest of your life? How many jobs have you assumed and taken on as your responsibility with this little dance they do? What about the promise peddler? The moment you question the relationship, they dangle this huge, shiny bundle of promises in front of you. Usually the exact things you've been hoping for, yet you've been denied the whole time up until this point. We'll buy that house. We'll start date nights again. I'll take you on a vacation. I've been thinking it's time to get married. Maybe it's time for a baby. Yes. Yes. Because at the moment that you're questioning the relationship, a vacation where you're isolated with them, or a wedding with your closest friends and family, or having sex to maybe make a baby, all sounds fabulous, right? However, many of us see these shiny objects and we follow them, only to find out that those grandiose promises were used just as a quick distraction because we were questioning the relationship. It sidetracked you, it got you off track, and it got them off the hook. And you're right back where you were. Promises like these are like everything we know about the old time town to town peddlers. Their merchandise was cheap, it was invaluable, and there was no contract or customer service line when the promises were not delivered on time. The talk tornado. This is a huge one. You bring up a simple, important issue, and suddenly the conversation spins into a perfect, frustrating circle, destroying everything in its path except the topic at hand. It's a powerful, magnificent technique. They know works because if it doesn't, they just keep talking. The talk tornado is designed to win by exhausting you into silence, making you take the blame, or apologizing. The value vulture. This one is confusing in our own minds. You are, or at least you used to be able to be, the kind, caring, loving, giving, fix it supporter, peacekeeper, conflict avoider, empathetic person. You are a good person. Most people who end up in these type of relationships have a very emotional personality. You do everything with emotion. You have a set of values which you inherently attempt to live by. They know this. They use your good heart, your desire to fix, to help, or to understand as a tool to cross your boundaries, to take advantage of you, or to make you feel as if your God given personality is flawed in some way. They turn the good person you are into your greatest weakness. Now, those are just some examples of what I want to cover, and we'll cover them in a little more depth in the actual episode. But I know hearing some of these scenarios sound very familiar. And I know you may even have a pit in your stomach after hearing them. It's one of those, I think she's watching my life scenarios. But this is what I want you to do: listen, write things down, and listen again. You are here for validation. You're here to be assured that what you are experiencing is not normal. And sometimes it takes more than once because we are the benefit of the doubters. The first two times you hear this, you think Dr. Heidi is full of it until you start seeing it repetitively. Then maybe she knows what she's talking about. And by the end of the week, I'm going to start getting texts that say, "You're right, Dr. Heidi." But I learned the same way. Whenever I had validation, I talked myself out of it. Well, he isn't really that bad. Or he's always done that. That's just who he is. He didn't say those exact words. Besides, I'm probably overthinking. And now I'm judging him. I'm not supposed to judge people. It's probably normal. Again, I'm expecting too much. Blah, blah, blah. All of those things. It's the same thing that you do. You subconsciously know that if you fully see it, you have to do something about it. That's why we like to stay and rehearse and recite and re-list and re-listen and re-research on what they do. You already know what they do. So in the episodes upcoming, I'm also going to explain why they do it. But because you subconsciously know that if you fully see it, you have to do something about it, it's easier to stop at what they do as opposed to why they do it, because it's easier to stay in something that's familiar than to step into something you don't know or you're not prepared for. So if we can just talk with our girlfriends over and over and over about what they do, they did this, can you believe that? It keeps us kind of in a safe place. But it's also not validating enough because you don't understand why they're doing it. Understanding is where your freedom lies. Once you know the tactic, you observe it, you validate that it's not normal, very soon that behavior that they use will lose its power over you. So here is your mission for the next few weeks. I want you to become a neutral observer of the situations that we talk about. Now, I say neutral because you don't have to change, you don't have to fix, you don't have to say anything, call them out on anything. I just want you to watch, learn, and compare it to any notes that you've taken during these episodes. If you're keeping a notepad, just a little segue, make sure you keep it somewhere they can't find it. Your safety is my priority. As we lay out these and many other behaviors in the upcoming season, I want you to simply note which ones you observe. Don't judge the behavior, don't react, just write it down. And I tried to use catchy titles. Those will help you remember and spot things as you see them. Second, I want you to go right now, if you haven't already done it, to my website, Coaching with Dr. Heidi, and take the TPA, the Toxicity Profile Analysis. Yes, it's 106 questions. Yes, I know it's long. Every question in that quick assessment correlates to one of the 21 character traits of the toxic personality that I teach in my private exclusive Freedom Me program. But it also gives you a lot of validation immediately by just reading through the questions. The TPA is a fantastic validation tool because it gives you validation right away. A lot of people will go through the TPA and go, I started reading those questions, and if all of those things are a example of toxic behavior, I've been living in it and didn't even realize that this was toxic behavior. The more evidence you collect, whether it's on your notepad or through the podcast or through the TPA or through other people's podcasts, the more validated you're going to feel. The validation is the key to unlocking your power. Okay, my logo, I mention this every once in a while, has 4 petals on it. Education leads to understanding, which leads to power, which leads to your freedom. Validation falls in under understanding. If you can expect it's going to happen, it takes you from, I can't believe they did this, to, I knew that was going to happen. And you can check the box. The more boxes you check, the more you realize it's repetitive and it's cyclic. That's when you're going to finally be one step ahead, which is what you've been trying to accomplish all along. You being in a toxic relationship is not a reflection of you. It's not a reflection of your worth or your ability to make good choices. You did not pick them. They saw your emotionally wired personality and your good heart, and you were a target. You were the one that will respond to the behaviors that they use. When you can accept and understand that, you're going to feel everything shift. A quick note, because we're getting towards the end of the year, many of you know I limit the number of my one-on-one exclusive clients each year so that the ones that I am working with get my absolute best, most focused support. For 2025, I had opened 30 exclusive spots. Is going to let you know 27 of those, and I have been a busy little bee, are already claimed. Some of them have already been through the program and are just doing check-ins so often. Some of them are doing so great, I don't hear from them. But if the TPA gives you some validation, and listening to this podcast episode where you start realizing their behavior is normal for them, which means I probably can't change it. There's 3 remaining spots for 2025. And if you feel like you want to get going on making some changes before the new year, you can jump on my website, find the details, and apply for one of those 3 spots that is left. You don't have to leave a relationship to work with me. You don't have to have made the decision to leave a relationship. My job is an educator. You're not going to do anything until you're ready to do it, no matter who tells you what. But if you're ready to get a little bit more validation and a little more education on a more personal level, grab one of those 3 spots, because even though we're going to start it this year, Free to Me is a 5-month program, and we'll be working together long into 2026. Next week, we're going to start by discussing and dissecting the behavior I call the broken calculator. Why your wins never add up and don't even seem to count to them. You're not going to want to miss it. Are you asking yourself, am I the crazy one? Is this normal? Maybe this is my fault. Maybe I'm overreacting. That kind of confusion is exhausting and it keeps you stuck. To help you get straight to the facts, I offer the You've Got to Be Kidding Me validation session. These are intensive 3-hour guidance sessions dedicated to your personal situation. We map out the foundation of the toxic relationship and help you see it through the eyes of the other person, giving you tools and the understanding, decision-making power, and the clarity needed for the changes that will bring you to your freedom. You deserve to know the truth so you can stop doubting yourself. And if you've been noticing your own intense and sometimes uncontrollable reactions, you may want to incorporate the next step as well, tackling the aftermath. Subscribe to my other podcast, Fake and Tired, where we deal with the emotional aftermath that follows the toxic teardown. Get the clarity you deserve with the You've Got to Be Kidding Me validation sessions now at coachingwithdrheidi.com.